Rein was an ugly, poor, neglected child who was forced to watch his family burn by the devil at a young age, and was abused as a slave by the hero's party for the rest of his miserable life. But even with all the bullying he endured, the hero kicked him out of their pathetic party, saying that he was as worthless as his cheating mother after he blew her back out. So when Rein heard those words, he punched Arios's disgusting face, telling him to never talk about his mama again like that, and left their party. Because throughout all those years, Rein had been deliberately pretending to be useless, and had secretly concealed his cheat leveling system for taming all the ultimate species, along with his forbidden ability to enslave the gods, and destroy the entire world one day. After finally making enough money to afford dinner for the first time in 2 weeks, he heard the voice of a girl screaming in the distance, and when he ran to the source, he saw a hot cat girl that was about to get devoured by a D-rank tiger. As the beast was about to slash her down, Rein attempted to stab the monster's neck, but his blade broke in half before getting launched to crash against a tree. As the tiger began approaching him, Rein screamed for the girl to run away, and prepared for his final moments, hoping he would at least buy her some time to escape. However, the girl swore that she would use all of her strength, and leaped into the sky before pushing herself to kick down at the tiger, defeating it in that instant. When he saw her broken physical power, he remembered that among the 4 ultimate species known to mankind, there was one that was so rare it was only heard about in the legends. So when she told him that she was a cat spirit, the rarest species, he ran to prevent her from falling inside of his arms. Her final words were that she wanted to devour his meat. A few moments later, the girl began devouring Rein's meat, thanking him for filling up her insides, because she hadn't eaten anything for days. So she decided to introduce herself to him, saying that her name was Conade, one of the last cat spirits alive. And after Rein introduced himself back, she sat next to him, saying she was glad an ugly guy like him saved her, and asked him to tell her more about himself. As they walked back to the Adventurers Guild, Rein told her about his depressing life story, realizing she's the first person who's ever listened to him in his life. Once he was done with his story, Conade felt sad that such a kind person like him was treated like trash, but he petted her on the head, telling her that he was okay. After stroking her, she told him that she was sure he was powerful, but even though he said he was just a useless beast tamer, she said that she was confident he could tame her. Because while he was saving her life, she realized he might be the only human in the world who could tame a cat spirit. So she offered to be tamed by him, and Rein thought that he would be able to prevent others from dying with the help of an ultimate species. However, he realized that it didn't even matter if she was an ultimate species, because he wanted to get to know her more. So he took off his glove and bit his finger, releasing the blood into his hand. As he extended it outward, he began chanting the taming spell, and his magical seals began encircling Conade until a sigil formed on her arm, sealing their pact. Once she was done, she saw the symbol binding them together, and Rein couldn't believe that this wasn't a dream. As she extended her hand and held his, she began running along with him. At the Adventurers Guild, Rein saw Roxanne. Wrong show. Ruby congratulated Rein on completing his first quest and becoming an F-rank adventurer, but wondered how an ugly, smelly loser like him was able to talk to a girl. But even though he had been paid 50 copper coins, he realized that it wouldn't be enough to get a room. But Ruby reminded him that no girl would want to get a room with someone that smelled like an anime convention anyway. However, some worthless creep came up to them, saying that he'd never found a cat spirit in real life before, and told her to leave the ugly moron she was tagging along with. Those words made Conade scream at the man, saying that Rein was her hot master, but the man laughed in his face, thinking that there was no chance a weak person like him could tame the rarest ultimate species. But Conade told him that Rein was stronger than he could ever be, so the man challenged Rein to an arm wrestling match, saying that the girl would be their prize. Realizing that refusing this match would allow the man to chase against Conade again, Rein decided to accept his deal, and grabbed his hand, determined to save Conade from being in any danger. As soon as the man announced the beginning of the match, Rein smashed his worthless hand into the table, and Conade announced him to be the winner. As he groveled on the ground, the man realized he wouldn't be able to have any more salty biscuit games. After dragging the worthless, spineless dweeb away, Rein wondered when he'd become so strong, so Conade told him that this was the side effect of his taming ritual. When taming ultimate species, their power is also transferred onto him, so he had gained the broken physical strength of cat spirits after taming her. Even so, she thought he was the greatest daddy for how powerful he looked protecting her, and wanted to go on their next adventure already. While they were gathering some grass because Rein likes to eat ass, Kanade heard the sounds of people screaming in the distance. And when they got to the site of the sound, they found a bunch of bandits attempting to rob a poor ugly old man. Seeing that they were part of the Shadow Clan, Kanade told Rein to fall back and get help first. But he knew they wouldn't have enough time, and told her that he wanted to save the man. He told her that he would distract them while she saved him, and after jumping and running like weebs, they began knocking all of them out while Kanade went to save the old man. However, 3 bandits were about to kill Rein, but he managed to hold them off, and Kanade realized that Rein might have been the only human able to tame a cat spirit, so she would never regret becoming his servant, but worried about her powers one day causing him to self-destruct. Because of that, she wanted to be the one fighting on the front lines, but as she watched him dodge the axe and knock all the bandits down, her floodgates began to open. All of the bandits decided to rush him at the same time, and Kanade wondered why she couldn't take her eyes off him while he's fighting, why her heart was pounding, and why there was water leaking from her pussy. After clapping all of the bandits, he wondered why her cheeks looked like they were the ones getting clapped. But she told him that she was just scared about him defeating them without a weapon. The old man thanked them for saving him from grave danger, but Rein told him that his ugly ass should have already been inside of a grave. After Rein thought about how his life was at risk, he decided to head straight into enemy territory. And while they were walking, he told Kanade that the Shadow Clan would begin targeting them soon anyway. However, Kanade thought it would be dangerous fighting hundreds of bandits alone. But Rein revealed that he had a secret ace up his sleeve. After a while of walking, they made it to their hideout, but Kanade began crying because she was about to die before developing plot. And while she was bent over, she told Rein that it wasn't too late for them to develop plot. However, Rein revealed that his ultimate weapon was a bee, and that he's tamed an army of them, revealing that he wasn't only a beast tamer, but that he was also an insect tamer. This was the first time Kanade's ever heard of a person mastering 2 classes, but Rein told her to get reinforcements while he destroyed all of the bandits, and she wondered if she was really helping him as his familiar. However, she just wanted an excuse to get on her knees for him and ran off to the capital. Eventually, the swarm of bees arrived, and Rein amplified all of their poison with his magic, before preparing to send them away. At the same time, the heroes' party had barely managed to escape for their lives. However, Lean told Mina that it was all the new morons' fault, and began screaming at their replacement beast tamer for not scouting the area enough. After pulling away, Mina wondered if he really thought a single squirrel would be enough to study the area, so Lean told him that he should have tamed more than 20 squirrels to make sure they weren't ambushed. After hearing those words, the man wondered what the fuck they were talking about, because the overload of information from taming just 2 beasts would fry a person's brain. Lean wondered if Rein had actually been stronger than they all imagined, but instead, she called the man a useless tamer and a liar, promising to burn him alive if he didn't take blame for their party ditching the old man, so the beast tamer ran away before they would kill him. At the same time, Rein had managed to poison the entire bandit hideout and release the bees from their control. Just then, the adventurers came with Kanade, and they began restraining the bandits, but their leader was shocked that Rein can handle the entire Shadow Clan on his own. After they went away, Rein began petting Kanade, and she opened her mouth wide for him, but an earthquake began going off in the cave, and from the other side, a beast broke out of the prison, and 3 king lizards came out. The bandits revealed that they were waiting for this kind of moment, but the lizard killed the bandits and began destroying all the adventurers. As Rein attempted to shield Kanade, he punched one of the king lizards, and Kanade leaped from the back to kick the lizard away. Rein told the adventurers to take the bandits out of the cave, saying that he would handle the monsters. As he remembered how useless the old version of him used to be, he realized that things were different now, and with Kanade by his side now, he rushed to punch the lizard, glad that he'd finally found a companion, because with her, he was able to defeat all of the monsters in his way. After a while, Rein came out of the cave, and everyone congratulated him on defeating them. So as he looked at Kanade, he realized it didn't matter whether she was an ultimate species or not, saying that with her by his side, he felt like he can do anything, and Kanade felt the same way. Later that night, Kanade was glad to finally have a nice bed, but Rein wondered why they would be in the same room, and the innkeeper wished the ugly virgin loser luck lasting more than a minute. After defeating all the bandits, Rein was promoted to E rank, and with all the money he earned, he decided to get them a room, but never realized that they'd only have a single room available. Kanade tried dragging him back to the bed, but Rein said he can't ever sleep in the same room with a girl. However, Kanade told him that even though she was embarrassed, she was sure that Rein was just a worthless simp, who wouldn't even have the balls to do anything if a girl asked him to. However, Rein told her that she shouldn't be so quick to trust people, but before he could leave, Kanade told him that she doesn't trust anyone except him, because after all, he's already risked his life countless times to save others, and said she could never let her master sleep outside. So Rein agreed to sleep in the room, but when she asked Rein to sleep in the same bed as her, he screamed that he'd never do that. While he slept at night, Kanade continued staring at Rein, realizing how great of a man he was, and that for all the pain he'd experienced, she wanted to be the one that healed his wounds, promising to stay by his side forever. A week after they'd been together, Ruby told them that there was a giant monster guarding the Stride Bridge. So because it was destroying all their trade, she asked him if he would be able to defeat the beast, saying that the reward was 5 gold pieces, and Rein's greedy ass accepted the quest immediately. When they got to the bridge, Kanade thought this bridge was definitely bigger than Rein's millimeter Peter, and when she wondered what the monster was like, a giant dragon appeared in the sky, descending onto the ground. As the dust settled, a hot-ass red hair appeared from inside, telling him that her name was Tanya, one of the second greatest ultimate species, the Dragonoids. She went on to say that she'd been looking for a strong opponent this entire time, so she offered to take them both on together. However, Kanade reminded him that she was also an ultimate species, and as soon as the match began, she rushed towards Rein with all her speed, but he narrowly blocked her blow. His strength shocked her, as most adventurers had already been wiped out by that single strike, so she went on to give him the second test, blowing a flame from her mouth that they nearly avoided. Even so, Kanade's tail had been burnt, so she became mad and rushed towards Tanya, but before getting close, she ducked down and attempted to kick her away, but Tanya evaded her attack and began launching her own attacks. As Rein stared, he felt like it was cheating to intervene, and leaped forward to attack her while she was distracted, but Tanya managed to hold both of them down, spinning them until she launched them into the sky. Realizing that they couldn't move in the air, Tanya prepared her ultimate blow and launched her fire breath towards them. But after the fog cleared, she saw that they had somehow survived her attack, because in the last moment, they jumped off each other's feet to evade the fire, and Tanya congratulated them on being the first adventurers to last this long. This was the power of a dragon, Rein realized, so he asked Kanade to buy him 3 minutes to execute his plan, saying he's confident they'll win. After running away, Kanade leaped towards Tanya to battle against her, but Tanya evaded her strikes, and when Kanade launched tens of strikes per second, Tanya was sure she'd run out of stamina soon. However, Kanade said that she was confident Rein's secret plan would work out, and he realized the moron was about to expose their whole plan. Even so, he tried focusing once more as he'd sensed a faint presence during their battle, and located the bird that had been flying around, so after he tamed it, he asked for the bird to bring its friends. After a few minutes of Kanade and Tanya facing off, Rein told Kanade to leave the rest to him, and summoned a swarm of birds to begin biting away at her. Their attacks weren't able to damage Tanya, so she knocked them all away, saying that a worthless attack like that would never harm a dragon. But just then, she began getting dizzy and fell onto her knees, realizing that she was paralyzed. As the bird landed on his arm, he told her that the birds were from the pedo species, and released a large dose of poison that was enough to paralyze even the dragons. After Kanade hugged onto Rein to celebrate their victory, Rein asked Tanya to come with them, but when she thought he was going to sell her off, he told her that he just wanted to talk with her. However, she wondered why he would only want to talk, since he could do anything he wanted to her right now, and thought he was the weirdest person she'd ever met, so Kanade began tickling her until she agreed to come along with them. Inside the Adventurers Guild, Ruby was shocked that a pathetic adventurer like him was able to destroy the bridge's guard dog, and when she wondered if the girl was a dragon, Rein told her that she was just a weird-ass cosplay girl. However, Tanya pushed him away and said she was the queen of the skies, but before she could finish, Rein shoved something into her mouth and began leaving the guild. As they walked, Rein warned her that the town would be in a panic if they found out her identity, but she began going around showing off her powers and telling the kids that she was actually a dragon. Outside the town, Tanya apologized for exposing her secret to everyone, so Rein sighed, telling her that she should get as far away from this town as possible. However, rather than finding somewhere else to train, Tanya said she'd rather stick along with them for her training, and hugged onto Rein, saying that she likes him for the way he protected her in the town. When Kanade began screaming at Tanya to get off her master, she wondered if she was jealous, saying that no one likes girls who can't share. At that moment, he wondered if Kanade would be okay with them joining her party, so although she was reluctant, Kanade accepted. After getting her approval, she told Rein to form a contract with her as well, but as he got ready, he never thought it would be possible to tame two ultimate species. As he bit his finger, the magical circle manifested, and Rein began forming his bond with her. The sealing ribbons began engulfing her, and after she agreed to become his servant, the taming sigil appeared on her hand, and their contract was sealed. Kanade told her to look at her hand, and she saw the magical circle, thinking it felt warm to always be connected to Rein. However, Rein thanked his hand because all those lonely nights he spent with his hand were finally paying off. Tanya grabbed onto his face, asking him why he was looking unhappy, saying she was looking forward to being his servant. That same night, the heroes' party had wasted a week in the woods, and all of them realized how awful their lives were, without Rein doing all their heavy lifting. Just then, Arios realized that they should bring Rein back. After all, he was a gullible kind moron, so after they used his ass to clear out the lost woods, he planned on abandoning him once again. Meanwhile, the two girls began fighting over who would eat Rein's meat while he slept, so Tanya called her a flat board, and Kanade called her an overgrown Yuya disgusting fatso. The following morning, they began their first job in the forest, where they had to locate and exterminate all the slimes. Because while they were only F-rank monsters, they were able to spread rapidly and destroy farms, and Kanade hated them because they always made her wet. However, Tanya promised to deal with them for her, and Rein was glad that they were already getting along. After a few hours of not finding the slime, Rein decided to look from above, and when he found a bird, he activated his magic to assimilate into it. After a while, his consciousness left his body and fell onto Tanya's massive cannons, but Rein waved to them from the bird's body, saying he transferred his consciousness into the bird. Kanade wondered when he would stop being overpowered, but Tanya realized she could enjoy his unconscious body. When he asked what they were going to do to him, they screamed at him to leave already, and wondered when his abilities became so broken. After a few minutes, Rein led them to the slime hideout, but before Kanade could smash them, Tanya asked him if he was able to use magic. However, Rein revealed that he was never able to do anything but light a candle, so Tanya told him to try casting a fireball towards the slime, and pushed him to get started already. As he looked into his hand, he attempted to remember the structure of the magical circles, and cast a giant fireball, destroying all the slimes with a single blow. This was just as Tanya expected, because when he tamed Kanade, he was able to gain the physical abilities of a cat spirit. So after he tamed Tanya, he was able to gain the magical powers of a dragon, giving him the second highest magical power in the world. Hundreds of other slimes appeared once more, so Tanya told him that they would become his new targets for training, saying that he needs to get stronger since he was their master. Realizing that he can't look like a beta in front of the girls, Rein asked Tanya to teach him her magic, and began casting fireballs at the slime. What he didn't expect, however, was how awful she was at being a teacher, but at least he managed to get stronger while completing the quest. Back at the guild, Rein had gained a massive reward for exterminating the slimes, so they began going around town eating the best food, and Rein was glad that Tanya was able to keep her mouth shut. But while at the restaurant, both the girls began devouring his meat, and Tanya shoved his giant sausage into her mouth before swallowing it. After he realized he wasn't going to have a chance lasting longer than a minute, the girls asked Rein where he learned how to be such a great beast tamer, begging him to tell them the story. So Rein went on to reveal his past. 10 years ago, Rein grew up in a village of beast tamers, and his parents would always help him learn how to get closer to animals. But those times didn't last, as his village no longer existed. Hearing those words, Kanade apologized for making him talk about something so depressing, saying she just wanted to know more about him, and Tanya told him that they would never force him to relive those moments. However, Rein knew they were asking because they cared about him, so he went on to reveal what happened. When he was 12 years old, his parents left him to tame beasts on his own. But by the time the night had arrived, he saw a plume of fire coming from his village. So he began running, and when he arrived, he saw that his entire village had been burned down, and that his family had been killed, leaving him as the only survivor. The adventurers took him in and began using him as a slave to earn his food. And after a few years, the hero Arios invited him to join their party, so Rein agreed without a second thought. After all, he thought his life would get better, but he couldn't be further from the truth. He became nothing but their baggage lifter, and would never sleep to make sure they were safe, eventually realizing that he was being used. After telling his story, he apologized for how sad his pathetic story was, but Kanade held his hands, telling him she's finally realized why he was always risking his life to save others. It was because he truly wanted to help people and save them from the sadness he went through, saying he wasn't pathetic at all. Tanya held his hand, telling him that he's too kind for his own good, but thought that aspect of him was charming, and that she was happy that he was her master. Hearing those words made Rein realize that all his pain wasn't in vain. But Tanya swore that she would burn all of them down for how awful they were. Along with her, Kanade said the heroes' party were the ones who were useless, and told Tanya that she was nicer than she expected for a fatso with massive cannons. As they all laughed, Rein wished for them to stay together for the rest of time. The following morning, they headed out to defeat a group of orcs in the mountains, and Tanya burnt all of them with a single blow of her breath. But Rein told them not to let their guard down yet. However, Tanya was confident she would defeat all of them without a problem, and after Kanade crushed one of them with a stone, another goblin tried running towards Tanya, but she eliminated him with her tail. From behind, she realized that she forgot about one of them, and as she was about to burn him down, he held her leg down and brought her to the ground, but she managed to burn his face off. However, another goblin appeared from behind, so Rein took the knife to his arm, and Kanade kicked the goblin away, eliminating it from existence. Tanya was worried about his bleeding, but Rein reminded her that he could heal, and began repairing his wound until it was gone. Even so, Tanya couldn't believe that she risked his life, and while they started heading back to the guild, she continued staring in shock. After getting his reward from the guild, he wondered where Tanya had went off to, so Kanade revealed that she seemed a bit down. All alone at the bridge, she realized that Rein was only worried about her, but because of her arrogance and power, she risked his life, and wondered how she would ever be able to face him again. Just then, Rein appeared, asking her why she was sad, so she apologized for not taking his warning. Because while it was only a small wound this time, she was scared of putting his life in danger, but Rein petted her head, saying he's just glad she was safe, and that she should be more careful next time. Kanade also came to hug onto Tanya, saying she was glad she was fine, and inside the inn, Rein begged the lady for another room, saying that he couldn't endure all the torture his body was going through every night. While he slept on the hard ground, Tanya realized how he let them sleep on the bed, even though he was the one paying for the room, and wondered why she couldn't stop thinking about Rein, and how there was a warmth in her heart. She thought her feelings for Rein were becoming dangerous, but she lied to herself that she wasn't in love, telling him that she wasn't an easy hoe to get with. Before going to sleep, she covered him up and wished him happy dreams. The following day in the forest, Tanya thought Rein might benefit from buying a weapon, and as Kanade was excited for her master to get stronger, Rein froze in his place. Before their eyes, the hero party had appeared, and Arios told Rein that it's been a long time. However, Rein decided to ignore them and keep walking away, but Arios felt sad that Rein was treating his old comrades so coldly. After Tanya asked them if they were the hero's party, Arios realized he was facing a cat spirit and a dragonoid, and thought it was impossible for a useless guy like Rein to tame them, so he thought Rein was their servant. But Kanade screamed that Rein was her master, and Rein asked them why they wanted to talk, so Arios revealed that investigating the Lost Woods was harder than he expected. The longer someone spent searching for the destination, the farther it became, so he wanted to ask for Rein's help in exploring the forest and becoming their luggage boy once more. The others told Rein that he should be grateful for even getting another chance, but Rein told them to just ask for someone else.